Geets snapped angrily during the hearing. "You are not allowed to interrupt me." The hearing room was busier than usual that day. The cold, white lights shone down on the long rows of tables, where the senators and witnesses were preparing for a tense session. A low murmur rose throughout the room as the presiding judge announced the start of the hearing. Matt Geets in this fictional story sat at the very front. Before him a thick stack of documents marked with colorful sticky notes. His expression was serious, as if he were bracing himself for a long and difficult exchange. From the very first minutes, the atmosphere began to heat up. The first witness, a legal process expert, was presenting his position when Geets raised his hand, asking permission to ask a question. He asked slowly, but each word carried a heavy, probing tone. "Can you explain again why you believe this process needs to be changed?" Before the witness could finish their sentence, another person at the witness table interrupted to add something. It only lasted a few seconds, but it was enough to disrupt the flow of conversation Geets was trying to maintain. Geets leaned back, narrowing his eyes at the two people in front of him as if trying to suppress something. A moment later, when the exchange resumed, Geets asked a more detailed question. "So, in your opinion, which part of this report is inconsistent?" Witness A was answering when Witness B touched the microphone. "I think it should be clarified that," before the other person could finish, Geets slammed the file down on the table, his voice becoming sharper than usual. "You are not allowed to interrupt me." Geets leaned forward, his voice slowing but still full of emphasis. For a moment, the entire hearing fell silent, although his voice wasn't loud. The emphasis on each word clearly conveyed his frustration. The presiding judge spoke, trying to restore balance. "Please follow the order of speaking. Everyone will have time to speak." The tension eased slightly. Witness B gently moved the microphone back, gesturing an apology. Witness A continued his testimony. Geets also adjusted his demeanor. He took a deep breath, turned to the next page of the document, and asked his question in a calmer tone. "Thank you. Now let's consider part 2 of the report." However, it was clear that no one in the room had forgotten the emotional moment that had just occurred. The note-takers continuously turned pages and clicked their pens. Reporters were trying to find more details to describe the tense atmosphere for their articles. As the hearing progressed, witnesses became more cautious in their speeches. They only spoke when called, sometimes taking a few seconds to ensure they weren't accidentally interrupting anyone. Geets asked many in-depth questions, but this time he wasn't interrupted. Every word he uttered was heard clearly. Even so, the atmosphere remained tense. Another careless interruption could reignite the tension. At the end of the session, after the chairperson called a recess, the entire room breathed a sigh of relief. Several other members of Congress approached Geets, briefly discussing the proceedings. Geets in this story returned to his usual composure. He tidied up his documents and said to his colleague, "We're just trying to keep the conversation on track. Sometimes a little emphasis is needed." The hearing ended, but the moment Geets spoke up to request that no interruptions be allowed became the highlight of the entire session. No major dispute occurred, but the incident demonstrated, when discussing in a serious environment, even a split-second interruption can create tension, and sometimes a decisive statement is the way to maintain order and keep everyone focused on the core issue.